Let's move on. We're going to talk next about a story that broke this morning. It's rare that we get new stuff coming out on a Tuesday other than game releases that makes it into the show, but that's the case this week. So it's interesting. I've talked about it before, but I was a skater for 12 years and hardcore, like skated every day. On weekends.
You was a skater boy.
I was, yes. Going on road trips to skate parks and driving to like Lansdowne, Maryland to find this legendary old outdoor. Like I
saw some old pictures of that era this week on Facebook too.
Yeah, that's true. And so
you can't even buy pants that length anymore.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. So anyway, I was a skater. I was in skate culture. I was in the punk and hardcore scene. I was in it neck deep for like 12 years. So skateboarding games have always been near and dear to my heart. I don't know if anyone was happier when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was first released way back when. To finally have a good 3D representation of skateboarding was something I thought I'd never see after years of playing games like TNC. And in all honesty, skateboarding games pretty much sucked up until Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. 720 in the arcade. That's it. Yeah. Yep. Which was like basically a modified Paperboy game if you really look at it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But it had like the swirly joystick on the arcade cabinet. Yeah, I loved 720. But otherwise, skateboarding games have pretty much sucked.
I didn't know until that game that the natural enemy of skateboarders is actually bees.
Yeah. It's actually rednecks, but at least that was my mortal enemy when I skated. They hated us for no reason whatsoever. But anyway, so, you know, I've been a part of this culture for a long time. So it was exciting when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came along. Everybody else obviously realized the greatness of that game. The franchise absolutely exploded for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, where they kind of refined the formula. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, I was at GameSpot when that came out. I'm not sure if it was Ryan Davis or Jeff Gersman that actually did the review, but the game got a perfect 10. And it was one of the few that GameSpot had given out. Now they're being a little more liberal with their 10s.
At the time, that was very unusual.
It was huge,
and bizarre, I thought. But
well, I don't know. I worked with those guys every day, and they were huge Tony Hawk fans. And if you watched them play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, I think you would understand it because they were so good at Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that the things that they added in Pro Skater 3 completely changed the way that they played the game. Like I sat in a cube right next to Ryan Davis and his TV was right there. So I got to watch him play anything he played all day, every day. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 took it to another level. And if you watched them play it, you totally got it immediately. So internally at GameSpot's editorial team, nobody argued against it, like because we could see it. And
3 was pretty much the end of my interest in the series.
Well, what I was getting towards is that was it. I mean, it wasn't it because a ton of more games were released after that, but it was just a steady decline of interest in sales after that. The franchise got
to me, that series was basically platforming. 1 and 2 were great.
It was a platformer, the 3D platformer. Absolutely, it was. And I think we even maybe classified it as that on GameSpot, if I remember correctly.
You might have. I think I remember arguing with someone over that because I agreed with that and they thought it didn't make any sense.
It is. It absolutely
But I'm like, I don't know what else you'd call it. It's not a sports game, really.
Yeah. And then it became bloated. They just kept putting more and more stuff in it. Like the last one was Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, the last real one anyway. That was from 2007.
Just stop making me, stop trying to make me care about Bam.
Bam Margera?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about him anymore, man. He's a mess right now. He's trying to get his life back together, but yeah, the money did not treat him particularly well.
All that stuff was like all the like American Underground stuff. All that stuff was so weird. Like,
yeah, they tried to take it in this like narrative driven way, and the writing was awful. They were using the real skaters as actors and just motion capturing them. And so the acting was terrible. The voice acting was bad. Like the new features that they were adding, like Proving Ground's big new feature was like getting off your board and walking. And it was like, wait, I mean, and look, you can watch some people play it, and the way that they mess with that mechanic can be pretty cool because they'll do tricks and then they'll run and then they'll jump and then they'll caveman slide down a rail or whatever. But for most people, it just became absurd after a while. And then they did a remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD. It was a travesty. It was awful. What year was that from? Was that 2015 maybe?
That sounds about. Yeah, I think that was around the early GameFace days, because I think I remember you and Marcus talking about it.
Yep. And since then, it has been crickets. Activision.
Yeah. Although I'll tell you something I played this week. I haven't played in forever because I got an HDMI adapter for my original Xbox this week, and so I played Tony Hawk 2X. Which is like the mashup of 1 and 2.
Yeah,
which is like,
I forgot about that.
That shit's gold. It's just gold, and it was great because on the old Xbox you could replace the music with your own MP3s if you put them on the system's hard drive, which apparently I still have all those MP3s still on there because it's the original system, and like I played that for a while. I'm like, that was great. It was weird that like this came out today because I'm like, I just played Tony Hawk for the first time in like 9 years this week. So
I just went on a nostalgia trip this week as well. I was digging out my N64 for a segment that I did for SIFTD HQ. And so I ended up getting into all these old bins full of stuff, and I got out my N64 and I used it for what I needed to use it for. And then I started like popping in my games. That N64 literally hasn't probably been turned on in 15 years, maybe something like that. And so I wondered like what was up with my carts and the saves on my carts, because they're battery powered and often they disappear eventually. So I started popping in all my old N64 carts, and will you believe that all my saves are still there? Still. Yeah. I mean, those carts are 20 years old.
You'd think at this point, I think a lot of the Super Nintendo games with battery backups are starting to die. 20 years seems to be about the span.
They're right on the fringe, I guess.
Yeah. Like there are ways to fix that. There's like ways to do that, and then like of course the ones that use the save on the controller pack, that's just flash memory. You'll never lose that.
Yeah, I'll never lose. They're all there still. But anyway, sorry for the tangent. So the big news is today it was leaked by a skater, and the reason I wanted to explain that I was a part of skate culture is because I'm going to explain now why this happened. So. A skater, Jason Dill, and he's been around forever. He was a skater back when I skated, so he's been around for a really long time. And in all honesty, skaters just don't give AF. They just don't. They don't care. They don't care about like NDAs and things like that. And so Jason Dill was on like a podcast this week, and he just blurted out, "There's a new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater coming. It's coming out this year." He also let slip that there's a new skate coming, but here's the bad news. Is for mobile. Jason Dill has been involved in the Pro Skater franchise for a really long time. I'm guessing he probably has great connections. He is friends with Tony Hawk and has been for a really long time. Tony Hawk has been hinting at things for quite a while. I still watch skate videos on YouTube all the time, and he's in them a lot, just hanging out or whatever. And he has dropped hints at least 6 times in the last 12 months.
He's made some vague tweets too. Like
he's made some tweets.
Clearly, something was in the works, like over the last year, because I do follow him on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. So he also was on The Masked Singer recently too. So he's kind of been promoting himself a little bit more.
That's
and
funny.
I've been like, oh, Tony Hawk's still around.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is that I believe this news. Jason Dill wouldn't just say that. I know you guys don't know who he is, but I do, and he wouldn't just blurt that out if he didn't know something. So, and I don't know him personally, but I've known him for 20 years, and he's just from media and stuff. But anyway, so I do believe the news that a new Tony Hawk is on the way. So now the question becomes, what the hell do they do with it? Matt, you're a big fan of the franchise. Do you think they should just chop it down and keep it simple?
I would make something closer to Tony Hawk 2 than Tony Hawk American whatever
it was. American Proving Ground.
Yeah, like I don't need some kind of weird open world live your skateboarding fame dream thing. I still think of that when I see like the terrible stories in like the Forza Horizon games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
it's very similar.
Yeah, it's just like this point. I was like, dude, you can't pander to me. Like, don't patronize me like that. Like, just let me play the game.
Yeah, it's like admit that it's just something you're not good at yet, and just don't do it.
Like just give me like the old first 4 games, which were just like a collection of really well made levels and some really compelling mechanics and
arcade
scoring. We get some multipliers, find the lines, find the skate letters, find the VHS tapes, have a little tutorial that explains to children what they are. Just go back completely to basics and nail
it. Nail the basics. Just start over like you did with the first one. So the first one, great idea, but rough around the edges. But it was enough where you could see, okay, this is going to be something. Second one, sublime. And so do the same thing. Start with the basics. Create a game that plays really well, that's fun, that makes people want to replay it over and over again, like the first 2 Tony Hawk games. Then, with the sequel, you start, flexing a little bit and adding some extra stuff to it. I don't want to repeat the whole cycle again, though.
No, but I see the Tony Hawk games a little bit like the Sonic games, where like that first one has that kind of like, oh, there's some promise here. They got something. Second was like, oh, they refined it. They figured out kind of what things are. Like, this is really well done. And then the third one, like, some people love it. Some people got turned off at that point. The fourth one just sort of an extension of the third one. And then there's a whole mess of crap for years.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's time to bring it all back. And like Sonic managed it, Tony Hawk might be able to manage it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they do return to the core tenets of the franchise that made people love it, I think it can be successful. I also wonder, too, who will develop it, or who is developing it? It's coming out this year.
Also, I think if you can, there should be a thing where if you can prove that you own still own the skateboard from Tony Hawk Ride, you get like $5 off.
You get it free, bro. I have one in this closet right back here over my shoulder, unopened, brand. In fact, no, I think it's right under this bed that's behind me right here, covered in dust. I'm sure they should give it to you for free if you have one of those boards. But so I agree. I think they should simplify it. But then I wonder, too, so who's going to make it? Because Neversoft, after the franchise went away, was dissolved. So it doesn't exist anymore. I do wonder if you put it in the hands of a more capable studio, does then the story stuff make a little more sense?
Maybe, but I don't know. Like, the question becomes like, are you still dedicated to having the skaters voice it? And because that's part of the problem. Also, like, I don't think that would work as well because you're going to want to like get the classic guys in there and they're all like 52 now. And like, I don't know what they'd be. Like, if I was going to be forced to put a story in a Tony Hawk game, I would go completely batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And make it like take place in a world where skateboarding is the entire end all be all of existence. And like Tony Hawk and all those guys run like a Hogwarts for skateboarding. And like you go to like become like a skate wizard. That
would be awesome.
And shit. And like, that's like, it's all like an excuse for like, you're at like the skate academy of something. And like, that's the whole purpose is you're like getting a degree in skating.
Yeah.
And like they all get to play like kind of the professors. It's like they can be goofy and weird.
One is like the street skating professor.
Yeah, exactly.
The other's like the bowl skating professor. Yeah. The other's the vert ramp skating
welcome
professor.
To the pool. Welcome to the pool, boys. Like it's
the one's like a freestyle professor. Yeah, that could absolutely.
You got to go back to the dorms and like there's like the evil skate house and there's like the good guys and there's the technical guys like the Ravenclaws who just like do all the math on how the tricks work and stuff.
Yeah, they're skate betties.
Fuck, I got to pitch. I think we got something. Stop that project. Start it over. We got a better idea.
Someone just mentioned in chat game manual. I don't know if it's manual because that's his name or if it's because he's a skater and he does manuals. But he does bring up that Skater XL.
I think that's Rob Manual.
Oh, it is? He brings up that it's Skater XL, Session, and Skate Story are also coming. There's a couple mobile games.
Yeah, that's definitely Rob if he's recommending all those indie things.
That's true. That's a good point. What's up, Rob Manuel? What's going on, brother? Hope you're doing well.
That's another X-Play veteran.
It is. Yeah. Hope you're doing well. He was my assistant editorially at X-Play. He handled all the work, honestly.
Yeah. We hired him originally because like he wrote Yu-Gi-Oh strategy guides, and I knew that meant I wouldn't have to do the Yu-Gi-Oh reviews anymore. that was my recommendation. Like, what do you think? I'm like, I think we should hire him so I don't have to do this shit anymore. And so we did, and so he did. And that's
Sneaky Shalid Snake, I always have to say it that way, is saying that we're old at talking about how we want the older games. And that the newer generation wants a Tony Hawk's Underground 3. So, I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. I don't know.
We got the money. So.
It's not going to be Neversoft. Activision is not working with Tony Hawk. They don't have a contract anymore. So
the fact that Neversoft's not around to make it anymore might be the best argument in favor of Sneaky Shalid Snake's point. Because I don't know if I trust anyone to make that old school Tony Hawk again. So maybe you should just bunt and make like a story driven.
Yeah. I mean, it is possible that Tony has reunited with Activision and that they have signed a contract and he's working with them again. But
I just don't know like who you get to do it.
Yeah, but if he has not, then it's not going to be Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It's going to be something else. Tony Hawk, blah blah blah, skate your brain off or something. I don't know. It's Tony Hawk Hogwarts, I guess, is what it's going to be. So, Mitch, you're a fan of the franchise as well. What do you want in the next Tony Hawk game?
I'm similar with you guys. When Sneaky Solid Snake made that comment, I was like, I'm a youngin', and my best memories of this game was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I still have the jam-packed demo of that game where I can play a Spider-Man from the Spider-Man game. So, the more archaic it is, and easily accessible the game is, I think that's its bread and butter of that franchise. Skate.
It's like I said, it transcended, right? Because I was a skater and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it turned out it was so damn good that it transcended skaters and it just became a phenomenon.
And I think one of the reasons that happened is because it was so pick up and play. Yep. And it was like, you played a level and you got your score and you hand the controller to the next person and everybody played and everybody drank and hung out. And like once you hit kind of the more open world career driven versions of the game, that stopped being a thing because you didn't want anyone else to play your save kind of thing. It stopped being sort of a party game.
And I think the issue came into play was when Skate, the game, came into play. That was a much more realistic game. And I'm not as much of a hardcore skater when I was a kid as Shane was, but I did do inline skating. I did skateboard almost every day for a couple of years in middle school, basically. That was kind of my grow-up years. And so during that time, we enjoyed Skate more because of the realistic flipping of the stick of the controller to flip the skateboard. And I think Tony Hawk tried to pivot to match that with doing the story stuff, and that's just not what it is or what people play it for. And it just couldn't execute.
I still like the early Tony Hawks better than Skate, but by the time Skate came out, I liked that better than what Tony Hawk was doing at the time.
It was fresh. Yeah, it was definitely fresh, and I think that was appealing for it. But at the same time, I think when they tried to move to do what Skate does, it just wasn't going to work.
No, it was also a little too late.
Yeah. You segued nicely into the fact that, there's a new Skate coming as well. Granted, it's a mobile game. I think you're right. I think most skaters liked Skate more because it was realistic. I, for one, did not, though. I don't necessarily think that something being more realistic makes it better or more fun. There was a snowboarding.
I liked the skill. It took you had to have skill to actually execute a simple move because it is hard to do it.
Yeah, my problem with that game was there were too many tricks assigned to the stick. So the difference between doing a crooked grind or a Smith grind was literally 8 degrees on the analog stick, which whatever.
That was a problem.
Yeah, it was very limiting.
It's not a big deal for the most part, but there are parts of that game where they require you to do very specific lines. It'll be okay, do a backside Smith grind down the first rail, do a caveman slide down the second rail, and then do a crooked grind down the third. And if you had to do the exact trick. And once you got into the corners of the analog stick, it was very hard to do that very specific trick. And that started to drive me crazy. Again, very realistic. Skateboarding is, and I've played, I'm not even kidding, pretty much every sport. Skateboarding is the most difficult sport in the world. Maybe there's another one that I haven't played, but of all the ones I've tried, it is the most challenging. It's why I loved it. So you're right. Skate being really hard is realistic. I just didn't find it particularly fun. Same deal with the snowboarding in for Xbox, Amped, freestyle snowboarding. Again, very realistic if you're a snowboarder. And I am and was a snowboarder. And I played the game. And it just wasn't any fun because you couldn't even carve down the hill without falling down. There's certain things that you need to make.
It's if I want to do that, I'll just go snowboarding.
Right, exactly. And so
I think in a sense it was filling a need. There is that casual game available, and now there is a realistic one. So now you get to pick and have a preference. And I think that offering that choice, but then when they try to compete with each other and be too similar, then you're losing that wide variety.
We have a gift sub off going on in the chat.
Yeah, I was just about to tell you that too.
Sound Wizard and Tiny 2K are going head to head gifting subs to Sifters in the chat. That's the best kind of competition that we could ask for. I see Vincent is asking
tier 1 subs between the two, each given 10
thanks guys.
apiece.
That's freaking awesome. Thank you. Vincent is asking if I have played Session or Skater XL. No, I have not. I have been requesting preview code for both of those games for a while, and for whatever reason the PR company never gets back to me. And one of the guys I know really well, Anthony Chow, you know him, Matt.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's repping Sessions, and I keep emailing him. I'm like, bro, like, I want to cover this, and I never hear from him. So I'm trying, but I haven't got to play it yet. Skate on mobile may be one of the biggest travesties ever, though, because if you think about Skate, it's built its reputation on being this hyper-realistic, really challenging skateboarding simulation. And now it's going to be on mobile where you basically are just going to tap an obstacle and you'll just automatically do a trick over it. Like, if
maybe they'll turn the smartphone into like a fingerboard.
Maybe
that's what I was thinking.
Probably, yeah. Where you like use your fingers to like play it. Probably.
I mean, the good news there is that EA could be using that as like a test the water thing for a bigger project down the line.
Let's hope. So. Because as much as wasn't a huge fan of Skate, I want skateboarding games out there. I want to be able to play new ones. Skate 3, it's like there are streamers who still play Skate 3 and are making like millions of dollars off of playing Skate 3. So there's a demand for it if they can make a good game. I don't think I think all the mobile game is going to do really, though, is piss off fans of Skate, because they'll be like, we've been begging you for this, and this is what you give us. Like,
well, Vincent's also saying that the mobile game is a Skate 3 port.
Oh, it's just a port. Well, there you go.
And also, if you put both games out at the same time, you're basically limiting your customer base. You might as well release one, wait a year, then release the other, and not release both in the same calendar year.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we're going from 0 to 100 real fast here. It was like there were no skateboarding games for years and years, and now there are like too many. So
20 years, nothing, and then it all piles up in one day.
Yeah, exactly. That is kind of the way
anyone knows what that's a reference to, I will be very impressed.
I don't know.
Me neither.
Are you going to tell us?
It's from an old Warner Brothers cartoon.
Which one?
The one where Bugs and Yosemite Sam are both trying to marry Granny for her money, and they're chasing her around the house, and she goes 20 years, nothing, and then it all piles up in one day. I don't know why that popped in my head.
I don't either. I don't know how you pulled that out of your hat, but anyway.
That is my mind is just a bunch of movie quotes.
Well, anyway, the bottom line is I'm excited about this. I'm happy about the news of both games. I don't play a ton of mobile games, but I'll say this, like when Skate 3 comes out, I'll try it. Granted, if it's free to play, I'm not going to buy it, but in all, I just think it's really, really good to start having some of these games come back around. And it's good to get some fresh minds on these concepts as well. Maybe somebody comes up with something that's really cool and unique and different that everybody can enjoy. So I'm glad they're back at it. I'm intrigued to find out what's going on with Tony, where he's headed, who's developing the game, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll probably won't have to wait too much longer to hear about it if it's coming out this year, probably in June at one of these events that's coming up.
Also, look up Tony Hawk's Twitter and just like because he occasionally tells stories about not being recognized.
Oh,
and like he'll like people at the airport or I mean, probably not now because no one's in the airport, but like he'll go up and somebody be like check his ID or whatever. They're like, oh, Anthony Hawk, like Tony Hawk. And he's like,
that's me.
And then the guy's like, I wonder what that guy's up to these days. And he just goes, this right now.
Right now, I'm getting on a plane. I will
say
this.
He's also enormously tall. How do you not
How do you not know?
He's old enough now that I think they don't recognize him compared to his old publicity.
That's what I was going to say. Is if you've seen him lately, he has aged a lot in like the last 5 years.
He had another story about being at a pool where everybody was a skate park or something. Everybody was skating.
He still skates every day.
Yeah, he was watching, and one of the younger kids is just like, oh, you skate? And he's like, yeah, a little bit.
I invented it. I mean, he basically invented modern skateboarding.
And he tells stories sometimes just like screwing with people that like don't recognize him and like oh, the old guy thinks he can skateboard, and he's just like, I'll try it, you know. and he just does crazy shit, and there's like, oh, who is this guy?
Oh yeah, he's still really good, but he has aged a lot. So I could see where most people think of Tony Hawk. Most people probably honestly think of the box art of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. My
mental image of him is definitely more like about 40.
Yeah, and he's much older than that now. So yeah, it's I'm excited about this. We'll see how it all shakes out, but I don't think we're going to have to wait much longer to hear more on it. So I'm pretty excited. I think in June there's 3 events now, like IGN, Games Radar, Jeff Keighley. There's 3 different events now in June.
Well, Keighley's thing is like
goes all summer. Yeah.
It's like the
and there was another one just
new
announced.
kind of music festival.
Yeah, and there was another one just announced recently to cover what was it? Cyberpunk in a couple months.
I think that's actually part of his thing.
That's Keighley's thing, I think. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Like that, Keighley's thing is a giant umbrella.
It's basically like a Vincent put it best in the blurb for it. It's like a Google Calendar for video games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was a good blurb. But anyway, so it's almost looking like June is going to be just as good as June usually is, because there's just all these events popping up. Everyone had to hit milestones for E3 a while ago. Like, they have the builds. Like, why not do something with them?
And I gotta wonder, now that I Am 8-Bit has announced that they are part of Keighley's thing, I wonder if that, I mean, even before the virus shut down everything, if they backed out of E3 because they knew that Keighley was doing this other thing, and that seemed like a more promising project than putting up with ESA for another 4 months.
Yep.